Well, hello everybody and welcome back. This is attempt number 2 at our Friday live stream. We have been riddled with technical difficulties, but if you made it, happy Friday. I'm so glad that you're here. Today we are talking about the top 3 questions that were asked in my Design Champs community. These questions are common questions that are asked by everybody. So it's just a good opportunity to use those questions as talking points to engage with you here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and LinkedIn. If you have questions, feel free to put those in the chat, but we're going to start right away by jumping into these 3 questions that happen inside of my Design Champs community. And hey, quick note, my Design Champions community is having a live event coming up on May 16th, exclusive only to them. This is our design crit. We have one of these each and every month where multiple members get to bring their work on stage. We chat about that work. We give feedback. It's going to be super duper fun. So consider becoming a design champion. Also, hey, if you are new to the UI/UX industry, I just launched a brand new course called Intro to UI and UX Design. Covers all of the basics, gets you started, hits on things like what is UI/UX design, what is, good UX, how do we do some user research, wireframing, designing, prototyping, and even some career landscape conversations inside of that course. The links to all that stuff are down in the description, of course. But let's dive right in and talk about question number 1. This came from Nicolette Yates, one of my design champions, and she wrote, "Comms with recurring clients about raising prices. Here was the little story. I've written out an email to communicate my changes, in pricing and policy, and then went into detail about why I'm raising my prices. But now I'm second guessing the detail. What amount of info would you convey?" That's a great question. If you are changing your prices, right? And this could apply, right? Not only to freelancers who want to change their prices, but maybe even if you are fully employed and are looking for a raise. The question is, hey, my perceived value from my point of view has changed. I need to make more for the work that I do. How do I validate that to people who have already been paying me a certain amount? So could be asking for a raise from your employer, could be raising your rates as a freelancer, same kind of idea. My response to this, and because a lot of people ask this question, it's no problem if I want to keep making the same rates or go out find a new job or a new client, but what do I do if I want to raise now or raise my rates with my current freelance clients? Well, number 1, the validation never ever should happen there in the moment. When you say, "Hey boss," or "Hey client, I'm raising my rates. I would like a raise." You never say, "And here's why. I've done X, Y, Z, ... and list them all off. As freelancers, we don't say, "Hey, I raised my rates and because I'm hiring and the economy's tough right now." Here's the thing, ready? Nobody wants to hear it. They want to experience it. They want to experience why your value is enough. And here's the analogy I would use. If HBO writes me tomorrow, I'm an HBO Max subscriber, right, to that streaming service. They write me tomorrow and say, "Hey, valued customer, our prices are raising by $2 starting next month, and we hope that we have brought enough, value and service to you, and we hope that you'll stay on board being an HBO Max customer." I will make a decision whether or not I have found enough value in that service, right? Because everything is a service. And I'll probably stay on board. I don't need them to say, "Hey, valued customer, we're hiring more people. The economy is real tough." You're never going to hear them say that. "Hey, we're raising our rates. That's policy. That's what we're doing. And then you have to say this, but internally, we're worth it." Okay. So the point is, as a client or customer, I will make the decision on whether or not the raising of the rates is valuable or makes sense to me, dependent on the previous weeks and months that led up to that email, right? "Hey, we're raising our rates." I'm going to think back. Have I enjoyed HBO Max for the last 6 months? I sure have. Will I probably continue to? I probably sure will. Is $2 enough for me to make me want to bail on that value that I have received and perceive that I will continue to have? No. Now, if they said, "Hey, we're raising it by $15, I might go, "Ho, maybe a little too much." So if it's a reasonable price increase or raise or increase of rates, and you have laid out a long track record of value that you've proven and provided, it should be no problem. You don't have to explain yourself. That's the level of communication you actually need to be offering. It's very little. The communication happened beforehand, not in that moment, in that email. That's an amazing question. And I just wish more people would ask questions like that. Let's go back. We'll look at question number 2. This one came from Dylan Packard. Hear me out. How do you become a full-time designer? Dylan writes this. This is something I've struggled with for years. I haven't worked in the design industry, so I don't have too much to show for myself. The lack of time, client projects to showcase, ability to stand out in a vast market of designers with the little bit of freelance work I've done seems impossible. So his question, his comment was, how do I do it? How do I get hired? How do I get into the industry when I'm competing against other people who are already in the industry, who have more in their portfolio than me, who have accomplished more than me? And that's a question that tons of people have, and I'm sure some people out there have that same question. If you have that question, or a similar type question, go ahead, put it down in the chat. I want to hear it. I want to see it. And people always get so overwhelmed and they say, like, how can I get in? And some really great advice and feedback was given inside the community. And I'll just name for me, like the top three, because there was lots of advice, not just from me, but from others in the community, because it is a community. And so some of my favorites were my friend Taylor inside of the community, one of my design champions. He shot back a response to Dylan saying, hey, you have got to set your priorities. If it matters to you, then you will dedicate a certain amount of time in the mornings, in the evenings, if it matters to you to eventually get into the industry full time. And if you go, I don't really have time to do that, your no to that is really a yes to something else. You're saying, no, I don't have time to get into the industry because yes, I do want to play video games or hang out with my wife or my kids, or I do want to go walk my dog and play Frisbee in the park. You're saying yes to those things and no to these things. There's no two ways around it. When you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. I think the other piece of advice that was massive to respond to that question was, it's a lot easier if you would go narrow and deep versus wide and shallow. Here's what I mean by that. A lot of people, when they are thinking about getting into the industry, they think, I need to learn everything. I need to learn graphic design, print design, web design, front-end development, UI design, UX design, logo design, packaging design. They think they need to learn all of it to get in. And what that's actually doing is slowing down your progress of getting in, right? What you actually need to do is say, hey, I'm going to dabble a little bit and find something that I am drawn to, that I enjoy. Maybe it's packaging design, maybe it's UI design, and I'm going to go very narrow and deep on that topic. So every day, that little bit of time I say yes and dedicate to, it's going to be dedicated to UI design. UI design for an hour on Monday, UI design for an hour on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and week 5 and 6 and 7, month 5 and 9 and 12. And you're going to dedicate that time. You will go further and faster if you go narrow and deep. Why? Because your portfolio will fill up with that thing. And when clients are looking for that particular thing, all of a sudden you are very narrow. So I would say concentrate your focus and your efforts into a narrower area, and you will go further and faster. And then it starts to become, how can people compete with you? If you have that kind of dedication to only do this one thing over and over and over, how could they compete with you? Because people who are working in the industry, they have to answer emails. They have to sit in meetings that don't get them anywhere, that are not helping them in their 10,000 hours of mastery. But you get to focus on that 10,000 hours of mastery. Hey, we get to talk about stuff like this, all sorts of things like this in my new Introduction to UI and UX Design course. Consider picking that course up. It's cheap. It's 50% off right now, actually. Get it while the 50% off deal lasts. It would be super amazing. Let's go back and we'll find question number 3. Tersan says, hello, Jesse. Greetings from the Philippines. What's up to you, my friend? What's up to everybody out there watching the live stream today? Hope you're having a happy Friday. Tricia said, UI jobs without the UX, right? Can you be hired for just UI at a company? I really, really do not like the UX part of the process and would want someone else to handle that part. And I work on the visual design only. That's a great question. Before we get there, people have a few questions in the chat. So why don't we answer just one or two of your questions really quickly? We'll answer those and we'll jump back into our community questions. All right. So we had Muhammad Bilal Khan says, are Google UI UX courses worth it? I'm not a real big fan. I'll be really honest, because here's my thing. I truly believe that going to school or like university or getting a college degree in design, I don't think it's worth it, because those education institutions are so big that for them to make changes in curriculum, they have to get approved by so many people. It's like a large ship, right? And I went to school for a little bit. I ended up dropping out of school in my design program because that was the case. They were teaching me, I was already in the industry. I was working in the industry at a marketing and design agency, and I decided I don't have a degree. I might as well go back to school and get my degree at night. So I started like going back to school at nighttime to try to get that bachelor's degree. And as I was like, oh, obviously I love design. So I went for design, and the institution I was going to was, because it was a large college, everything was like 5 years behind the times. I mean, like they were teaching me how to design things or code things in like old technologies. And I was currently using the new technologies. And when I asked why, they said, it's really hard to change curriculum. So that's why I'm not a big fan. And you know, the Google UIUX course, they're not a college, but they are still a large institution. I'm a bigger fan of smaller kind of like education or smaller educators teaching you the most current up-to-date things, right? And again, I'm not trying to plug it too hard, but like my course just released. This is the newest, freshest idea of UI and UX design. You're not going to get a certificate with it, but nobody cares about certificates. I don't care what school you went to or what certificate you have. I care about what's in your portfolio, right? If you want something more advanced than this intro course, I'd highly recommend my Dribble 16-week product design course. That's something you can sink your teeth into for 16 weeks. And there's even hiring through Dribble after the course is done. So maybe consider that as well. Rob Lowe says, with AI making its rise, what does that mean for those of us new to the UX design industry and future outlook? That's a great question. Here's what I would say. Now is the perfect time. Now is the perfect time to jump in, because we have years until AI technically takes over the current workflows and processes that we know of right now as UI and UX designers. But by then, we will have moved on. We will have found new custom workflows and processes that are needed from UI and UX designers. That's always how it happens. Technology will follow the progress that's made by people hand carving those pathways. And yes, at some point, right, the AI will make its way to be doing the things we are doing now. It'll do it simple, it'll do it fast, but we will have moved on. But you're going to need the current skills to jump on that wave of motion to get ahead of it, and you will be in a great place 5-7 years from now. You'll have those custom skills. A custom suit tailor will always have the skills to cut a beautiful custom suit. Even if some sort of manufacturing process comes and can make a suit cheaply, they will have moved on to bigger and better things or raise their rates to handmade custom items, right? So you will never be really like lost in, at sea as a UI UX designer. You'll always have opportunities because you'll be growing with the progress of the industry. Now is the time to jump in. Okay, so let's get back to our members question. UI jobs without the UX. Can you be hired for just UI at a company? That's really the crux of the question. She doesn't like the UX part of the process and would like someone else to handle that. Hey, you know what I'd love you to handle? I'd love you to handle that little bell notification icon, like and subscribe. That was a sweet segue, by the way. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do. And if you are not a member of the Design Champions community, consider signing up, because we have our another live event coming up in May 16th. It's our design critique, so you can sign up for that and get your designs critiqued with me and the rest of the community. But yes, the answer to that question is yes, you can get hired in the creative industry for doing something specific and narrow, right? If you love UI design but not UX design, you can get hired for that. Here's the rule of thumb. The larger the company, the more opportunity it is for you to specialize, okay? The smaller the company, right? Startups, you working freelance for yourself, the more you're going to need to wear multiple hats and have to be able to do multiple things. Okay. I've worked at a startup company, and that startup team was a team of 8 or 9. And depending on whatever day I came in, I had to do UI design, web design, front end code, maybe even some motion design and video editing, right? It just depends on what's needed from such a small team. But I've also worked for large companies like Apple and like Nike. And when you work for those companies, they won't let you step outside. At least my experience was they wouldn't let me step outside of my zone. I was a UI designer at Apple, and they said, hey, here's the UX. And I said, well, I have some thoughts on the user experience. They said, we don't care what your thoughts are. We have a UX team. They're handing you off the UX. So just work with that. So, and there's probably a lot of stuff in between, but all that to be said, yes, there are places where you can get involved and do specific tasks or lots of general tasks. And those are up to you, which ones you would prefer. Hey, this has been a really great live stream so far. I think we got time for maybe one more question from the chat right now. I'm just taking a drink of my coffee as we get into our last question or two. Let's see. Vibrat says, what's the current book you are reading in the design genre? Oh, that's a really great question. I'm rereading actually right now. It's less of a design genre book and more of a business for designers, but that is the Win Without Pitching Manifesto by Blair Enns. I'm rereading it for like the 5th time because it's all about establishing your value. What is your value as a creative? So I would highly recommend anybody that is trying to get hired right now or is in the process of rolling out their freelance business, you should definitely read the Win Without Pitching Manifesto. Very, very helpful for creatives, okay? And that was a great question. Turkan says, what is the job of a junior UI designer? Your job as a junior UI designer is gonna be a lot of production design, most likely, okay? You're not going to be tasked as a junior designer with the initial creation of the experience, right? I hate to say it, you're not going to be trusted with such large tasks like, hey, build the app from the ground up, most likely. You will already be a part of an established team, most likely, with established styles, with established systems, with established processes, and you will be trained on that team's internal systems and processes. The app will say, hey, or the company will say, hey, we need to modify this flow. And the senior designer will probably do a lot of the thought work, and the junior designers probably do a lot of the production work, which means they'll say, hey, the senior designer has come up with how that flow should work. Hey, we're thinking about this type of button, these types of cards, these types of interactions. And they'll go, junior designer, we need you to now make that happen, do it at scale over these 50, 60, 70 screens, and you'll be working through them using the design system or pattern library to bring it all together and do a lot of the manual labor. Now, in the future, that junior UI design position is probably the first one that's going to be eaten up by AI. Because if we can right now feed an AI system our voice or our face or like information in Chat GPT about who we are as a person or as a business and have it respond back to us, what's to make us think that in the next like 3 years that we're not going to be able to say, here are the key screens, styles, buttons, here's my design system. I need a flow that looks like this. Like, here's my example. Now mimic this AI and do it at scale. Yes, that's probably gonna be the first thing on the chopping block is those production designers, which is more than anything just a encouragement for you to go narrow and deep and get past that junior UI design production role into more of that creative strategic role, because that's the thing that I think is going to be a very long time, if at all possible, for AI to truly be autonomous and creative and think outside the box. It's always going to, well, in the near future at least, it's going to be thinking using the models in which it knows. But it doesn't know maybe something that I know, right? Maybe I have a complete unique out-of-the-box idea. That's where the real value is going to start coming from, especially in the next 5 to 7 years with AI. So these are great questions. Got a lot of people jumping in the chat right now, asking questions. Hey, if you have questions, there's really 2 opportunities. If it's a UI UX design question, you might find that answer in my new course, the Intro to UI and UX Design. Find the link down in the description. It's 50% off right now. Jump on that, grab on that while it lasts. But if you also if you're like, hey, I just want to ask more of these questions and get more in depth, be a part of the Design Champions community. That's where these questions have come from today. We have a live event coming up, but we also, we talk every day. We ask questions every day, right? This is the place where you can jump in. If you have a problem, a question, you need to build your design network, you do it in the Design Champs community, right? You get 2 to 3 live events with me each and every month, and it's the cost of 2 fancy lattes a month. It's a crazy deal if you're looking for mentorship, growth, and to grow your skills. This is probably the place for you to do it. Okay, so these have all been great questions. We said, hey, Brie Lala just said just joined the course. She jumped into the chat. She heard about the opportunity and she was like, I ain't passing that deal up. I got to get into this industry. This is dope. And so she jumped right in. Brie Lala, good for you for being a person of action. Hey, if you're out there and you're like, I'm not ready for the course, hey, just do me a favor. Just like and subscribe. Leave a little thumbs up. Hit the bell notification icon. Let other people know that you enjoy this video. You've gotten some value out of it. I got time for one more question over here in our chat, okay? Ooh, there's a good question coming up right now from Baijin Yu. Says, is it possible to apply for a freelance / work from home UI UX designer or most of the jobs, are they on site? I think here's the thing. I think a lot of people are looking for remote work right now. Remote work is insane, right? Like you can accomplish so much, but there are still going to be a lot of companies who are looking for in person. So yes, freelance, work from home, UI, UX design. I actually have run multiple workshops. Maybe I need to run that workshop again, but I ran a workshop 2 times last year. It was really successful. A lot of people really loved it, about becoming a freelance UI, UX designer specific, right? And so, hey, if you'd be interested in me running that workshop again, you want to learn how to be a freelance remote UI, UX designer from home, just throw a bunch of hand emojis in the chat. If that's you, you're like, I want that. I want to learn how to do that, because we covered everything from client acquisition to taxes, LLCs, finances, finding clients, landing clients, processing them, doing the work, and doing it all as a freelancer, and how you should charge astronomical rates as a freelancer. We talked about all of that in that workshop. It was like a 2-hour workshop. Let me know if you'd be interested in that, because I'd love to run that workshop again. It was really a lot of fun. Maybe we'll run it. Maybe we'll run it in June, if that's something that everyone's interested in. Maybe I'll set it up, man. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, to answer that question, yeah, it's very, very possible. If you just look through job boards right now, LinkedIn jobs, Dribble job boards, and Behance job boards, as well as a bunch of others, you're going to find that a lot of people are hiring remote right now, and they're hiring for those positions, all different skill levels. Okay. So definitely you can find those gigs. I think what really matters, especially when you are remote, right, is 2 things. Number 1, your portfolio has to show value, because the amount of people who want those online freelance or remote positions is very high right now. You have to cut through the white noise. Okay. And to do that, sorry, I'm not trying to like bang a drum, but you have to learn how to go deep and narrow and not wide. If somebody's looking for a remote freelance UI designer and you have photography and branding and web design in your portfolio, you may not be their cup of tea, right? But if you just have this amazing, like valuable, deep and narrow UI design portfolio that's packed with value, just tons of value, they're going, whoa, this looks good. This looks too good to be true. I want to work with this person. So you can help yourself cut through the white noise by showing value. If you want to learn about value, I'm currently working on a course called the Value Driven Portfolio, how to instill that value in your portfolio. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Some people are giving me feedback about my website. I love that. I appreciate that. That's super good. Hey, you can give that feedback to me over in the Design Champions community, because that's where I learn from people as well. Hey, I've had a fantastic time with you guys this morning. This was our second try of our live stream. Make sure you leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification icon. I go live every Friday answering your questions, and I'm actually starting a new series in the live stream where I'm going to actually do design to Webflow, and we're going to do 5 or 6 live streams as we kind of grind through that design. So stick with me on that if you're interested in learning that process. That's coming up soon. You got your Design Champs stuff. You got your course if you want to jump in and learn UI, an introduction to UI and UX design there with me. And that is it for the day, my friends. I hope you've had an amazing Friday. I hope you continue to have a great weekend and jump back in next week strong and proud. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.